Hello, everyone, and welcome to the newest episode of the Jay Davis Show. I'm super excited to have Oliver Trevena today with us. He's an actor. He's a founder of an amazing brand called Caliwater that we've been able to drink some of here at the Pillow Cube offices, and we all really have been loving it. He's also a philanthropist and just a talented person overall. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Don't thank me just yet. We've only just started, so you might want to cut this in like 10 minutes. So let's see how it goes.
So why don't you give people a little background bio of how you got to where you are today?
Go. That's going to be a long one. Quick backstory. Grew up south of London. Youngest of four boys. I think mum wanted a girl. I ended up in theatre school when I was like 4 years old. Did about 12 years of ballet dancing, which wasn't easy. Ended up moving to the States 20 or so years ago. Fell into a TV presenting job. I did that for about 11 or so years. Everything from the pre-shows for the American Music Awards, the Grammys, the Billboards. I did a show called Young Hollywood, a show for the Hollywood Reporter. Interviewed everyone. Found myself, I guess, in the middle of amazing networks and amazing people, but wanted a bit more out of life. Came across a brand called All Saints that I was working with, which was a big UK fashion brand.
Yeah.
Helped them in their US expansion and building that brand around the world now, in the way of like kind of connecting the dots in a creative way. And I started to kind of love the business side. So started to invest a little bit, whether that was, fashion brands like All Saints. But my real passion was the health and wellness space. That was what I think I hit that kind of a moment in life myself in my like mid 30s where I was like, okay, hang on a minute. This has been a fun journey and it's been a great experience in Hollywood. But if I carry on trying to live like this, it's going to be dangerous. So I started to just, become obsessed with like the mind and body and those sort of things, and then found myself investing in everything from, I helped build out a gym called Dog Pound. We brought it from New York to LA. That has everyone from Hugh Jackman and, Adriana Lima, Tom Holland. I bought into that gym to get involved to, now a company called Next Health, which is a life longevity center, call it. We have 5 locations now that we're franchising, another 120 of them around the world in the next 18 months. And so really I found myself investing and getting involved in things that I love. And that was the case in the very early beginning. I loved All Saints. I used to wear All Saints. And so for me, that was my lesson in business was around, I guess, especially the marketing side, was around the authenticity. Like if someone actually loves what they're trying to be a part of and someone loves telling that story, they're going to tell it a lot better than just being paid a check to speak about it. And so I started to dive into that more. And then that led me to, okay, I've learned a lot of lessons along the way by investing and working with these brands. There were some that didn't do very well. And a lot of the time that was down to, you'd have an amazing product, but the founder is a big part of it, And I think for me, the biggest part is understanding that, I can be the founder, but it doesn't mean that I should be running the ship.
Yeah.
I always use a soccer analogy. I grew up playing football as well. I wasn't just in ballet. My dad had me in football. And I was always a good striker. Like I can hold my hands and say, I know I'm a good striker, but I didn't want to play in goal. And I didn't want to defend. And sometimes I'd have to play in midfield because there'd be some crossover there, right? But the art in winning was building that team. So I think I've always been a fan of that. Not from a place of laziness. Like it's not that I don't want to learn or play in those areas, but I just know what I'm good at. And if I focus on that, I'm likely going to be better and our team's going to be better if I can find people that already know how to defend and build that team. So I did that. That led me into Caliwater. My best friend, literally for 15, 16 years now, is Vanessa Hudgens. We've kind of, grown up. I'm a bit older than her, but she's probably like my big sister. She's taught me a lot more in life. And we've just been through a lot, and we were like, we never, having a business together was never something that was like, part of the plan, but it just happened. And we were like, let's do Caliwater together. And that kind of launched this kind of amazing journey into the tough harsh world of beverage, and CPG.
Yeah.
And in between all that, I guess I missed a big chunk of my entertainment life. I kind of left the hosting world about 5 years ago. It just, for me, was like, okay, it's something I can come back to. But I grew up as an actor. I grew up as a performer. I did theater, and I always wanted to get back into it. And I took a gamble and kind of went after, acting gigs. It was a tough transition at the time. I'll never forget my agents at the time dropped me because they were like, no, you're a great host. And I was like, well, I want to act. And they're like, but you're not an actor. I'm like, I am an actor. And they're like, but you don't have credits. So I'm like, well, I can get credits. They're like, well, we can't get you credits. I'm like, why? You've had commission out of me for 15 years. So anyway, got a new team and thankfully booked a gig, and I've been working ever since. And it's been an amazing journey. And it's for me, it's a passion. I do it because I love it, and I think I really enjoy the juggle because I get to, I was just in Serbia for 2 months filming a movie, and I can get to go and do that and then come back and go straight into my business stuff. So there's no, I think, the idle mind can be a dangerous one sometimes. And I think that's where a lot of actors and performers struggle, is because we go into a movie like that and it's a whirlwind, and then you come back home and you're sitting in your four walls with nothing to do. So for me, it's a blessing, but at times it can be a curse because I am the guy that's on set. I'll actually share this. We were sitting at a dinner table with one of the producers of the movie a couple of weeks ago, and someone asked him across the table and said, Vlad, tell me honestly, how's Oliver to work with on set? And Vlad said, honestly, he's an absolute psycho. He goes from walking into set, doing a scene where he's killing someone, to coming off set, talking about the budget of the movie because I was producing it, to then jumping on a Zoom call with a retailer about Caliwater, and then go straight back in and does another scene. But I think I've just got used to it. It's like loving the chaos in a healthy way. So
yeah.
Anyway, that was my intro. I think that was a lot longer than it probably was meant to be, but there's my 2 cents about myself.
I love it. I think that there's something about that multi-hyphenate kind of life that people who don't crave that don't get, but people who do crave it, it is that like chaos and in kind of the craziness, like you thrive in that kind of environment.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's changed so much, like the perception. I remember like, even when I was, as I say, I was, the kind of creative, and I was the global brand ambassador for All Saints. That was my title. And I'd, create these content series called like LA Sessions. That was like music. And I'd go from that even into my hosting world. And people would be like, hang on, what? You have a business, but you're a host? And people couldn't put it together. Or they were like, hang on, you're an actor and you're investing. And yet now, look at the world, it's everyone from Ryan Reynolds to, The Rock, to everyone is crossing over into business. It's the new norm. I think if a major celebrity isn't attached to owning a business, people are like, huh? Why aren't they doing it?
Yeah.
But it's always, like anything in life, there's that kind of transitional period where people are like finding it hard to digest, and then suddenly it's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. No, it's so interesting, and I think there's so many interesting parallels as well. I kind of started my career doing viral marketing and videos, and I always would tell people, I'm like, man, doing videos or the limited times that I was involved with kind of like longer form productions, there are so many amazing lessons that entrepreneurs should learn from filmmaking, because every film is like a new startup. You got to raise money. Yeah. You got to build a team.
So, by the way, it's so similar. There's like, yes. I literally this morning, my friend was like, how are you enjoying producing? I'm like, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
The script is a product, you find the money to build it. You tell the story. There's so many parallels.
You recently won a really amazing award as the breakout actor at the Rome Film Festival for your role in Paradox Effect. You're 42. How do you kind of balance that you're now finally winning awards for being a breakout actor, but you've been doing it for a minute? Like, how did you think through that?
It's funny because I remember when I got the award, and I didn't really think of anything to say, because you just don't in those moments, or maybe some people do if they expect to win it. But for me, it was just very like a realization of like, truly, you just never know when anything is going to happen in life.
Yeah.
You know, my mum's Irish and Irish background. And I feel like, I don't want to offend Irish people, but they're like walking fridge magnets, you know, like they have a quote for everything.
Yeah.
And my mum always says life makes sense in reverse. And I really feel like that's the case.
Yeah.
Too many times we try to have a plan in our head, you know, of what milestones we're going to hit at what age. And I've never been a fan of that. And even if I was, it probably would have never worked out because, as I say, you know, getting a breakout actor award at 42 probably wouldn't have made sense if someone was looking at my chart of you know, time goals there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's fun, and you know, I'm glad that I'm getting this momentum and success as an actor now because, you know, I have a more level head on my shoulders. I think, you know, timing is everything, and I get to take it for what it is and enjoy it, but also not take it too seriously.
Yeah.
Like I'm honored and it's a great award, but it's not, you know, didn't save anyone's life. You know, it's fun. It's fun. That's what it is. And I think that's what I'm having. I'm having fun doing it. You know, you make a movie, you let it go. You don't really know what's going to happen. So yeah, it was a nice moment for sure. But yeah, I mean, the best moment for me was I took mum and dad, and straight away after the, you know, I didn't even get to see the movie because as soon as the movie started, I had to go off and do like press interviews in Italy and stuff. And then I met mum and dad after, and we went off on a little adventure that I'd planned. And, you know, that's the most important part for me is, you know, the family and the memories and everything else.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love your mom's quote, life makes sense in reverse. I think that's especially hard for entrepreneurs, but probably anyone who's very passionate about what they do, because exactly like you said, you want to plan everything out. And you're very ambitious, and all of us are who do, you know, unique things where you're trying to blaze a trail. And I notice I catch myself like that really resonated with me because I am trying to like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna do this, and then this will happen. And it's like a lot of times it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah. I think what I've been, and I'm still trying to live this way now, is like it's that fine balance between, like, you have to trust in the universe, right? You have to hope that things are going to unfold as they are. But at the same time, that doesn't mean be lazy.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to still work for it and hope or have faith that it will unfold, but you can't try and control it either. Like it's all a bit of a game. It's like you want to be focused and driven enough where you're going for it, but at the same time, you have to go for it hoping that it was just going to come when it comes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Because that's the thing for me is every time I've tried to, looking back, like those stressful moments where I'm so trying to over control a situation or trying to get what I want in that moment or anything like that, it never went well, and it was also never enjoyable.
Yeah.
You know, like it was just stress for no reason.
Yeah.
I could have played the same, you know, game, so to speak, and had the same outcome and not been driving myself nuts.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time that I find is the stresses that I'm having, this is just real talk, what's coming to my head, but a lot of the time, like the stress that I'm having in life isn't necessarily the work or the moment, it's the way I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
You know? So
yeah, it's often the stuff that's almost out of our control. Like,
exactly.
Why can't I find this person, or why isn't this happened yet? And it's like, it just
totally
takes time.
Or why don't they see how I think they should see it? You know, why don't they understand the way they should understand it, in my opinion?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, even what you said about, you know, business, I think that's also what's hard about being an innovator is often you're ahead, and then we get frustrated that people don't see our vision. And it's like, well, that's just the nature of innovating because you're ahead of everyone. And so, instead of looking at that with frustration, look at it with positivity that, you know, you're onto something. You just have to hope then that the timing aligns because, you know, how many things, you know, you look back on and like in that moment, it wasn't a fit. And yet now someone tried the same thing again 10 years later and it's $1 billion company, you know? Yeah.
So
it's very true. What do you think is different about both acting and entrepreneurship? Where do you think it doesn't cross over as much? Where do you like I've noticed this with some friends who are actors, celebrities who are trying to start something or start a business, and some things I think parallel very well and some things don't. What do you think are the things that don't cross over quite as well?
I mean, the thing I like about being an entrepreneur and business in general is that like you're somewhat, I just talked about, releasing control, but you do have control around the success to some extent.
Yeah.
Like if you're in business and you put in 10,000 hours or however many hours it's going to be, you're going to get some success. You're going to get somewhere. In acting, there's always someone else at the end of that, time frame making the decision, saying yes or no. So you could put in those 10,000 hours. You can put in, even for me, I get a major audition for a movie and you put a self-tape down. You study, 6 pages of dialogue and you put the tape down and you get called again and you put another tape down and you go through meetings and you go through like a month, 2 months process to then find out, hey, really liked you, but it didn't go your way. There's a lot of that in this industry, in any world of entertainment, whether it's modeling, acting, singing, whatever, where you are guaranteed zero, that's it. Whereas I find that business, if you've got, somewhat of a good frame of mind and you're putting the hours in, there's some reward, you're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
So that for me is what I love about business. And that is what I don't like about our industry, but it's also, that's never going to change because it's, there is a massive element of luck in our industry, and timing again, so I like the business stuff because I think if you have a vision and it's smart and it checks the boxes, it's innovative, it makes sense, the product's good, everything else, and you go after it, you're going to get some momentum if you put the work and the hours in,
Yeah.
So I think for that, being an entrepreneur, you retain some power.
Yeah. No, it's very good point. One of the other things I loved you talked about with your family and spending time with your family, and that's kind of that reward. I'm assuming that's one of the ways that you're going to answer this question. But what are other things you do? Because I think entrepreneurship and the world of entertainment are both very easy to get caught up in. Winning awards and these things, and they're great. Those are important things. But how do you also kind of find that balance to still remember, like, hey, I'm just Oliver. These are my parents.
It's honestly, like I said, I mean, timing as well. Like I've had, I'd be lying if there weren't years in my life where I was like, I'm the, I've got king of the world. But now in my life, I just enjoy the process. It's not, maybe some actors, will disagree with me, but as I say before, it's like we're not soldiers, we're not on the front line of a war, we're not pulling people out of burning buildings like firefighters, we're not saving lives in hospitals day and night. We're okay, that's we're doing what we love and we're having fun doing it. And I think sometimes, for me at least, when I sit and hear some people talk, I'm like, whoa, settle down, bro. Is that you're taking this way too seriously,
Yeah.
Because it's a pretty fun gig, know? Of course, there's some issues you have to deal with, but in the grand scheme of life, no. So for me, I just kind of, I don't know, enjoy it, keep my head down, and that's it. It's fun, and I try and do that with all aspects of life.
Yeah.
The business stuff is different. I'll tell you one reason why, and this is just, once again, it kind of goes up here and comes out. But one reason why the business stuff is different is because when you're an entrepreneur and you raise money, you have other people's money in your company.
Yeah.
And that's a tough feeling. That's like a feeling like I can't even explain. And that for me is the hardest part of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Because I can't slow down. Yeah. If I finish a movie and I chill out and whatever, I can put my feet up and I can be like, because literally people say to me, bro, you have to stop. Like I go visit mum and dad and I get time with them, but I'm also juggling. They're like, you have to slow down. I'm like, I can't. Like there's other people's money in my company. Like it's not that option for me is removed. You don't really get to chill, but there's great rewards, right? Because if you if you win big. And then there's a lot of time off to be had and a fun little train set to play with and do things that you love and you want to do. I mean, you know this. So it's that push in those, founding years is extremely tough. And I think for me, at least, a big weight of that is because, you have other investors, you have other people that took a gamble on you and they took a risk on you. So you have to pay it forward and you have to give it your best shot, It's like, I don't want to use another soccer reference or football reference, I should say. My English friends are going to rip me apart. But when I played a game, if I went into the game the best I could be, and I played the game the best I could, and we lost, I would move on from that game pretty quickly. If I went into that game and didn't have my head screwed on, and maybe I hadn't slept well the night before, or I had a night out or whatever, and we lost, I would beat myself up about it.
Yeah,
it's the same thing for me in business. Like, I want to give it the best shot and do the best I can, and that's it.
Yeah.
So that for me is a big differentiator between the entertainment space and the being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's a really, really wise advice. I was gonna say that I always like joking. I own an agency and we do a lot of videos, and I always love joking that there's no craft table in a coal mine.
Right.
Like when people are like, "Oh, this is so," I'm like, guys, we have like a lady over there feeding us food while we stand here and talk about art. Like, it's pretty lucky to be doing this.
Yeah.
A pretty amazing thing.
Yeah. But it's important to just, I don't mean it, and I don't mean it in a negative way. Obviously, I love my industry and I love it. It's just important to realize, like, look around you, get outside your own box and look at what else is going on in the world, and you realize that in fact you're pretty lucky, and what you're doing is, hopefully sometimes someone will watch a movie and you'll impact someone's life. Like, someone might laugh, or someone might be touched by it, or they can relate to it. But in the grand scheme of things, we're making movies.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
So
what's the hardest, I think, as someone who's never acted, something that always
You've acted for sure, Jay. You've been on some interviews. I guarantee when someone's given a boring answer and you've had to act interested.
Fair point.
You've acted. Yeah.
as maybe someone who avoids the camera, and that style of acting. Funny thing is, I'm in one of our commercials, so I have acted even in front of a commercial. But how do you kind of get into that moment and kind of let the things around you? Because I think there's a great parallel there for entrepreneurs. How do you get into that moment and kind of let all the things around you fade away? Is there anything you do to kind of help prepare for that?
Yeah, I mean, look, it goes. I think for me, it's a bit of therapy in a weird way, because I am such a go person that when I get to a set, I mean, as I said, this last one in Serbia was crazy because I produced the whole thing as well and starred in it. It's a movie with Frank Grillo and Olga Kurilenko again, because her and she's just brilliant, and so we were like, let's find another project together after Paradox Effect. So we found this. But it's go. And so for me, when I get on set under normal circumstances, it brings me right to that moment, because you can't really think about much else. I mean, you're literally on a set and there's, all these cameras and all these people, and you're in it, you have to be in it. You've built this character in your mind and you're going into this scene. You're immediately detached from reality. So I'm no longer thinking about business or anything like that. So I think it's amazing because it takes you to the present. And going to your point, I think that's amazing to take into life, because the more you can be in that present moment, which is so hard. I mean, literally, I try and be more conscious of it now. Even when you're sitting opposite someone and they're having a conversation with you, even if it is slightly boring, like they still, you sat there, still give them the 5-10 minutes or whatever you were there for.
Yeah.
But it's hard because I think our minds have got so used to now, because of social media, phones, everything. It's like click, 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 click. We're everywhere. And I think that's dangerous, because dangerous to the mind, but also you can't make great decisions when you're thinking about 1,000 things, at once. So I think trying to be present in the moment in a very calm way is when you're going to be at your best as an actor, as a entrepreneur in business. I think whatever you're doing, and actually in business, the people that, you know, I've always kind of looked up to and have been inspired by and lucky enough to learn a lot from around me, you know, one guy in particular, I don't think I've never seen him. I mean, I've known him 15 years now. We're extremely close now. He's a brilliant businessman. He actually owns the brand All Saints now, and that's how we met and all that. I'm a godfather of his children now. That's how close we've got. I've never seen this guy go anywhere. Like anywhere. Is that on every single call, even if it's a, you know, phone call that like I'm accidentally listening in, you know, if I'm visiting him and I'm in this, like you're sitting there and you can't avoid it, I'm like, how is he not stressed?
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing. That's it. So I think there's some real power to be had there and success, because you just make better decisions. And I don't think that's a business thing. I don't think that's a entertainment actor thing. I think that's just a life lesson, you know. It's just to pause and remain calm and then make the decisions you need to make, you know.
I love what you said about you can't make great decisions when you're thinking about 1,000 things. I think that's right. Very true. It's very difficult if you can't kind of be in the moment on like, okay, what is this decision right now? What do we need to do? And I think that's what great entrepreneurs do. They bring in data from a lot of places, and then they kind of sit down and say, okay, we got to decide what this one thing is going to be and be very focused. Another thing I love that you pointed out, and this is something I always talk about with entrepreneurship, you talked about collaborating frequently with the same people, and Olga, and how you guys have now done several movies. I think that's often what young entrepreneurs don't yet see, is they don't see that like the first like 10, 20 years of being an entrepreneur is just trying to build that like film crew. You know, you look at the great directors and they use the same cinematographer over and over and over, the same producers, the same set designers and costume designers. And that's one of my favorite parallels to filmmaking is when you're a new entrepreneur, you don't know any of that. You've only worked with this one cinematographer, so to speak. And so you don't know like who to work with.
Totally. And I think, you know, that the at least I can say, you know, where I'm at in my place in life and business is when you find your people, it's great. Yeah. You just have your hub of people that you can go to. And I think, you know, the tough space, I mean, it's once again, it's a parallel. There's so many people in entertainment that are completely full of you know, they're producing everything, but they're producing nothing. And it's the same thing in business, you know, and you have to go through a lot of that, you know, to find the real investors, to find the real people, to find the real agencies, to find the real everything. So once you can find your people, to me, it's worth its weight in gold, because it's the time that you save, you know, is everything, you know, because you have to filter through so much of the crap to find the good ones, that when you do find the good ones, then you're onto something special, you know.
I love it. Well, I've got 3 pages full of notes and quotes from you and your mom. So it's always so great. Well,
my mom always edges in with her quotes. I'm looking on my fridge. My fridge, so funny enough, isn't one of, you can't put magnets on it, so it's not covered in magnets, but otherwise it would be. Yeah.
That's so awesome. Well, she sounds like a very wise person and raised a wise son. So hats off to both of you. Thanks so much for coming. This was seriously, anytime I'm taking notes, I know that's where it's like I'm learning, and I feel like I'm actually the recipient of more than any of the listeners.
Well, mate, I mean, separately we'll have to chat, because I know there's a ton I could learn from you as well. So,
I appreciate it. Well, thank you again for coming and sharing.
No, pleasure. It went by so quick, which is nice.
Yes, it was awesome. Thanks again.